I was feeling what you were saying, and I've never met my real father, my biological father. Actually, I encountered him when I was 15, found out I was his biological son. But I've been raised, by men. I met him on Facebook, actually, and he blocked me. He don't want to get to know me. I told him that let's forget about the past. My mom never talked anything bad about him. She always told me he was good. Actually, my dad right now that's been married to my mom for, I believe, 11 years, even knew my biological father. They went to church together in Chicago. He played plenty of instruments, sang and rap. And it was always an emptiness there, and I always looked for, examples. I looked up to people such as someone to be an older brother for me.
Right.
I was the oldest of three, me, my brother, and my sister. And I always looked for an older brother or a father figure. So I looked to every man, and every man that made a mistake, I came down hard on him. Me and my stepdad now, we got a good relationship. We just mended a relationship. We used to fight a lot,
How old are you, Ken?
I'm 23.
Graduated from high school?
I didn't, actually.
Okay. You ever joined the game?
I have.
Did drugs?
I have.
Got children?
I do.
Okay. You married?
Just got divorced.
Okay.
So, it is a void there, and I understand what you were saying, how we look to Jesus and we look to God as a father figure, and that's who I call my father.
Mm-hmm.
But I did always look for a natural, substance or something to, I felt like I would have been I feel that God completes me. I do, and I would have also. I also feel that if I would have had my biological father there, and I do thank my dad and all my role models and everyone who helped me. But if I would have had my biological father there, I wouldn't be in so much pain, or I wouldn't be so hard on anyone else that may make a mistake.
My name is Clarence. Hey man, it was kind of good to hear you say that. I am old, by the way. I'll be the first to tell you. I'm old. I was born and raised in a place called Mobile, Alabama. It's a pretty big town. I lived in big projects. It would take you probably really 30 minutes to just walk from one end of it to another. So I had an opportunity as a child to see what it was like when children would come out of those project homes and go to all the different places, who was fatherless and who wasn't. I was very fortunate. I did have a father in my life all through my adult years, but my father raised me because my mother died when I was 9 and he never remarried, so I pretty much grew up without a mother. Quite the opposite. I had a father in my life all the time.
I passed away about 2 months ago. I left home in 1970, and most of my friends that I grew up with, I had never seen since the day I left because I vowed I would never go back. And all of a sudden, I happened to go back. And believe it or not, this guy who passed away, he was very influential in that town, so everybody showed up for his service. And I got to see all these people that I hadn't seen in years. And here was the one thing I noticed immediately.
Children of our descendants who were successful all had fathers in their homes. And I saw them, spoke to them, hey, how you doing? They were all college educated. They had children and families of their own. And unfortunately, when you got to ask questions about, well, hey, where is such and such, and where is such and such? And these were the children that grew up with no fathers. And I tell you, to a man, dead, in prison, or just flat lost. So, it is important, to have a father. Now, but I do want to make this point. To have a father in your life, he's got to be a good human being, because I had a good father, but I lived in fear of him every day. And I think that's why I'm sitting in this chair today.
Because I had this real healthy fear of my father. And the reason that I had it, because you got to remember, in the 50s and 60s, when you got what's called child abuse, it was just kind of like the way it was.
Yeah,
when you accepted it. And to really be honest with you, I look back at that today, and I do think today that wouldn't hold up. But here's what I can tell you. Every day I woke up, I was too afraid of my father to do anything wrong. And I mean anything wrong. So, I feel blessed that, I look around this room and I see the challenges that young men have today. who are fathers. But I just want to leave you with this. Because you're not being raised by a father, it's not the end of the world. And I can say that. I want to say this. There are some good children out there and mentors out there and people that are willing to help you, help you become a man. I mean, they've got a lot of things in place for you. But, the bottom line, if it's to be, it's up to me. And I think if it's to be, it's got to be up to you guys. I mean, it really, really is. Every day you wake up, you can make a choice. You go left or to go right. And here's what I can tell you, and I'm going to drop it from here on forward. Reality tells me this, that every kid that ever grew up that didn't have a father was not necessarily doomed to being a bad father. I've got quite a few of my friends who were fatherless, didn't have one in their life, who were going to be great parents. And that's just what it is. You don't have to be that if you don't want to.
I grew up, I had both parents in the household, so I grew up around a pretty stable house. But I lived more in fear of my mom than I did my dad, because maybe for pretty much my whole life, I'm 23 now, I never really remember having a conversation with my dad. All I really remember was seeing the back of his head, because he's either always working, or he's always leaving to go gamble, or something like that. So for the most part, my mom was the one that was, taking care of me, teaching me, showing me the ropes, because my dad was never around, maybe 80% of the time. I think it wasn't until I was maybe 12 or 13, he got sick, he was real sick, to where I actually really got to know my dad, because it kind of calmed him down. He couldn't do as much, he wasn't mobile, so instead of him being gone all the time, I'll come home from school or from basketball practice, he'll be there. And I lived there for like the first 2 years, maybe up until 15, going into my sophomore year, when I actually was comfortable talking to him about certain things. I had two older brothers, and the age gap between my brothers and I is so big. My oldest brother is 19 years older than me, and one after that is 10 years older than me. So as far as male figures around, I always had somebody older to look up to, good and bad, because I'm 5, my next in line is 15, so I'm hanging around him. I'm picking up things that, probably shouldn't be picking up at 5 years old, and then the next one is 24. So you can imagine, like, they're on babysitter duty, and I'm soaking up everything they're doing. But what I will say is that my mom did a pretty good job with all of us, because even though my dad wasn't there to teach me and show me things, there were some things that my brothers just drilled in. Maybe, and at the same time, too, I come from like I said, I'm a 5th or 8th, so my mom and dad were pretty old when I think my mom was 34, my dad was 40. So there's a lot of old wisdom.
They're still together.
Yeah, they're still together. Well, they're separated, but they're not divorced. They're separated, so it's all cool with that. And then I got saved at 19. My mom was just too happy. But I grew up around the church, but it wasn't really, I thought it was just something you did or something. That was it. Right. Because my dad, he never really went. He probably went earlier on when I was younger, but for the most part, adolescence, he wasn't at church. He was at home watching games and stuff. But as far as being a father figure and teaching me ropes, it wasn't until after I got into church. So I've been in church really consistently about 3 years now. And my pastor is like a father figure to me, because things where I could get away with at the house that my brothers don't check me on, my dad don't check me on, he'll put me to the side and let me have it. And he does it with wisdom. He does it according to the Bible, and then there's some practical knowledge there too. I'm also married and I'm a father too, so I kind of say, I'm not gonna say it's a bad deal that my mom was so dominant in the house, but because she was that way, I see a lot of the things that she's taught and the things that she said, I see it coming out of me. And then some of it causes trouble with me and my wife, because she was so dominant. The only thing I'm used to from women is being dominant. So my wife is kind of passive, and I'm doing it, I'm looking at her like, not gonna change me.
I never really seen too many of my peers growing up referencing their dads, even with fear. Like, I grew up in a neighborhood, all the fathers was there, but they'll say something, and it was kind of like, whatever, I go in when my mama called.
Where you from?
I'm from Vegas, born right there.
Sad, yeah.
I'm
Vegas represents.
Vegas, baby.
I mean, the Vegas is a big old melting pot,
Yeah, Vegas,
I'm just saying, absolutely. Good.
My name is Demarius, and I go by Exodus. And I kind of feel what he was saying about fear of the runner. what words was saying down there because I'm from California. I'm not from Vegas. I'm sorry, y'all.
Yeah.
But I've been here since '99, so I've been here for about 12 years. But I never knew my father, so it was just me and my mom the whole time. And even though my mom is one of 11 for my grandparents, my mom's the youngest daughter. So by the time I came around, even though I had uncles, they had like families and everything too. So all I really had was literally my mom. And my mom had to play both roles. Like she, did her best to be mom and dad and try to teach me some of the stuff that, a father would teach his son, but my mom had to do it. So it was kind of like I had fear for my mom because whenever I got out of line, my mom was short. I'm 6'2", my mom only 5'3", but whenever I got out of line, she took a chair, stood up, and still, did this. It was kind of like I walked around with a fear, like, I ain't about to, y'all crazy. I'm gonna go back in here because I ain't about to get a whooping by no switch. I was breaking up in some water. That's vicious. But in being raised like that, and yeah, I wilded out, was like associated with the little gang and everything, started drinking and smoking and everything. But my mom was a praying mama, and I had a praying grandmother too. So it was like I was raised in the church, and that's how my mom raised me. She raised me to look at other men in the church.
So you would disagree with me when I said about what I said about women they can fill the void where a father would be.
I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you because even though my mom had to do it, it was an awkwardness to it. You know what I mean? Especially when I got like, 13, 14 and, stuff started changing and everything. My mom had to do it because there was no male around.
My father, he wasn't there per se, but when he was there, he would show me all the wrong things to do. Mm-hmm. So everything that he taught me to do, I taught my daughters not to do. My mother, she raised me herself, and showed me how to be a man. You know what I'm saying? And that's my mother and my father. She tried her best to keep me out the streets. You know what I'm saying? And I give her a lot of credit for that. But as a man, you're gonna do what you wanna do. You know what I mean? And all you can do is respect her. You know what I'm saying? And show her love and continue to, be there for her. Every man that came into her life that wanted to, play the role as daddy, I couldn't respect that. Because I knew they was going to be in and out. You see what I'm saying? So, my mother is my father.
Julie, how old are you?
I'm 31.
Where you from?
I'm from Las Vegas.
Graduated?
No, sir.
Kids?
2 daughters. Yeah.
College?
No.
You didn't go to finish high school, so you can't go to college.
No.
Excuse another rhetorical question.
Yes, sir.
It's actually just...
I go by Spody, and I'm born and raised in Las Vegas as well, Northtown to be. My mom did it, and my mom wasn't super strict. When I did stuff and I got whoopings, just like any other child should get. But at the same time, everything that I wanted to do, she motivated me to do. When I started getting to the age, like my man said, of puberty and all of that stuff, she was right there walking me through it. I could talk to her about what I did with girls, from the good to the bad, and she was super cool like that. So I feel, my pops wasn't there, and I don't say dad and I don't say father, I just call him pops because it just flows better. Because like I told him, he's in Atlanta right now, but I told him, recently, I'm like, we can. You're not my dad, but you can, we can be friends. That's kind of how I approach it.